Let's turn our attentions to the pandemic and in particular its impact on Africa. More COVID testing is vital if the continent is to get a grip on COVID, according to the African Union's Vaccine Delivery Group, and it's calling for urgent change. We can speak now to Tian Johnson, Community Co-Chair of the African Vaccine Delivery Alliance. Welcome to Newsday. So give us a picture then of the lack of testing and what sort of impact it's having.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. I think right now what is important to know is that 6 out of 7 COVID-19 infections on this continent of Africa go undetected. 6 in 7. As a few months ago, the cumulative number of COVID cases on the continent was as high as 59 million, but only 8 million were reported. So we have to absolutely continue this push to ensure that people on this continent have access to testing. Because, of course, we've seen estimates that say between 65% and 85% of COVID cases are asymptomatic. This means you wouldn't know unless you were tested whether or not you were positive. So across this continent, as we see children in Germany being able to test every day as part of their school day, as we see the citizens of the United States being able to access free testing from their governments. In some African countries, if you're a teacher, a COVID test will cost you more than half of your monthly salary. So the situation is absolutely unacceptable.
We've seen rich Western countries quite often subsidise or provide free testing. Is that something you would encourage African governments to do? Is that something you would like to see on a more widespread way on the continent?
I think absolutely, and it's a call we've been making since the onset of the pandemic. But it goes beyond holding our governments in Africa to account. It includes holding countries like the UK and the US and the EU responsible for what they are currently doing, and that is delaying the TRIPS waiver that we have called for since the beginning of the pandemic. And what this does is ensures that this pandemic will continue to ravage the global south for many, many more years to come.
The waiver, just explain that a bit.
Sure. So at the outset of the pandemic, South Africa and India called for a TRIPS waiver. This would have enabled us to independently manufacture and supply across the global south vaccines, test kits, treatments, and medicines. What we've just learned a few days ago as a result of leaked text that has been making headlines shows that despite all of this talk of solidarity, of global health equity during the early days of the pandemic, countries like the US and the EU are making no concessions, but demanding onerous and extensive conditions and restrictions on what technologies can be covered. And this means that they are effectively eliminating our ability to manufacture and to deliver by not sharing the tech, by not sharing IP, and by not opening up the space as a result of public investment. So the public money that has gone into vaccines and tests and treatment is now being kept out of Africa. So we are calling on our leaders of South Africa and India to continue this push and to resist calls by the US and the UK to give up our right and our dignity and our right to life and access to healthcare by virtue of them being bullied, essentially, by the US and the UK.
All part of that big picture of inequality, global inequality over health and so many other things that this pandemic has revealed. Tian Johnson, Community Co-Chair of the African Vaccine Delivery Alliance there, speaking to us from